Then you decide to phone up that ex-girlfriend. The one you haven't spoken to for 5 years, who's got 2 kids and is married to a policeman. And then, when he answers, sounding just a bit aggressive, you say, "Listen, mate, I don't care, just tell her I really love her. Or, I'll look after the kids, I don't mind." And then, when he hangs up, you think, "God, he sounds like a right bastard. I better phone him back and tell him." And then when you do, his phone's engaged, so you think, "Bloody hell, he's phoning people up at 3 o'clock in the morning. He must be pissed out of his head. He'll never remember to give her the message. I better write her a letter." So you sit down and write a letter. No, not a letter. You write a poem. And then, realising that the people upstairs have stopped banging on your ceiling, you go up there, knock on their door, and ask them if they've got any drink they can lend you. And then, with your last coherent thought of the evening, you realise, this poem's embarrassing. There's no way you're going to post this in the morning. So you go and post it now. Then, the hangover you experience the next day will be in an entirely different class. You've had exactly the same amount to drink, but as you get older, the spiritual hangover starts to come into play. And for the spiritual hangover, I'm afraid there's no known cure. Although I do find that a couple of drinks helps you to forget about it for a while. I've always found that abroad is the best place for the worst hangovers. There's something about being overseas, isn't there? It's like all bets are off, basically. The drinks are weird, and so are the opening hours. What's the local tipple in here? Ah, senor, is a sweet mandarin orange liqueur flavoured with cardamom pods. Great, I'll have 2 pints of that then. Any chance of a lock-in? In Belgium, Trappist monks brew the strongest beer on the planet, and drink it, obviously, for the greater glory of God. That is their vocation. The Trappists are a silent order. Well, they would be, wouldn't they? I mean, the last thing you want if you wake with a serious hangover is to have someone start babbling onto you about God in Belgium. I strongly recommend Greece for the definitive all-over-the-body hangover. In Corfu, I once had a hangover that made my legs ache for 5 weeks. My own fault, I suppose, for passing out face down in a ditch with my legs sticking into the road. I'm embarrassed to admit this is true, where they were promptly run over by a Mercedes saloon car driven by 2 Italian medical students. They came back and examined me, and miraculously, nothing was broken. I must have been so relaxed. So, being future medical practitioners, they knew exactly what to do. They took me back to the bar I'd just left and bought me a brandy. They told me that they'd seen me lying there. They'd thought I was a log. So they'd changed down to first to get over me. In Copenhagen, I once drank something called Carlsberg elephant beer. Now, they've recently started marketing it over here. I'm here to tell you, cross the street to avoid this stuff. I drank 4 bottles, maybe 5. Nothing excessive. I felt absolutely fine. Then I went outside and stole a bicycle. I spent the whole of the next day weeping in a darkened hotel room, and that day I vowed never again, and I meant it. It's the last bike I ever nick. But Mexico is the place for the truly surrealist hangover. I once went out in Mexico on Easter Sunday night with 3 merchant seamen from Bootle, as you do, and woke up the following day at noon in a baking hot white adobe hut I'd never been in before in my life. I opened my eyes to see 2 huge cockerels perched on my legs. They fixed me with a vicious glare, gave a triumphant squawk, and then flew out of the window in formation, leaving me completely alone, or so I thought. That was when I felt something move in the bed beside me. Oh, shit, I thought. Not a sailor from Bootle. It wasn't, but it was a man. He was wearing a huge sombrero. He moved it to one side, and this dreadful, bloated, beery face looked up at me, an evil, sexual glint in his piggy, bloodshot eyes. Where have I seen this bloke before, I thought. Then, an incongruous smell of oysters and brandy wafted up at me. He reached under the pillow and produced a yellowing book. It was called Lucky Jim. I wrote this myself, he said. I thought perhaps you might like to read it after the remedy. Now this is where you should say never again. But it's too late. The most potent hangover cure known to mankind is already beginning to work. Kingsley Amis gropes his way towards you. His buttocks loom down on you, blotting out all light like a total eclipse of the sun. And then you black out.